The Incas are probably the first people that come to mind when you hear about any American civilization that practiced sun worship, as they have a long history of devotion to this practice, and their monarch even declared himself a descendant of the sun. What happens when archaeologists uncover a new site that raises doubts about the identity of the region's initial civilization? The newly found location has what it appears to be a clock tower built, which has piqued the interest of excavators. Let's find out if this advanced civilization share the same devotion to the sun as the Incas. Peru is regarded by archaeologists as having some of the most challenging environments and challenging artifacts, some of which are still being unearthed, especially those of Machu Picchu, which have now been lost to time and nature and are still hidden within our past. The Chanquillo complex, which is situated in the Casma-Session River Basin in the Ancash region of the country, is one of these recently found sites and is not very well known. The Chanquillo has storage spaces, a fort on a hill, booby traps to keep foes away, and gathering places. Numerous artifacts, such as warrior sculptures, panpipes, ceramics, corn husks, and rooms used to store corn alcohol were found in Chanquillo. Despite all these, the most interesting feature of the Chanquillo is the 13 towers, which are regularly spaced, forming a toothed horizon, and if one is properly positioned, one can witness the sunrises between the ridges. The site is so large that it could pass for a citadel. This is a shocking masterpiece of architecture, technology, and astronomy found in just one building. Archaeologists find that the site is subdivided into 3 parts. Part 1 is characterized by the fortified oval-shaped temple, which focuses on the winter solstice sunrise. Part 2 is made up of 13 towers, all with spaces every 5 meters, and is also used for ceremonial purposes. The final part is composed of a plaza surrounded by buildings. According to archaeological excavations, the observatory was erected between 250 and 200 BCE and is about 9 miles, 14 kilometers from the Pacific coast. According to the archaeologists, this location is likely the site of the first solar observatory ever built in the Americas. For this reason, Chanquillo is the 3rd Peruvian monument to be listed by the UNESCO World Heritage Committee, as this was done in 2021. The 2,300-year-old site points to a once sophisticated culture that used the alignment of the towers to watch the sun. In addition to serving as a tool to view the sun, or the colossal manifestation of very old astronomical knowledge, the observatory and its 13 towers would have also functioned to control the ceremonial calendar and were used to tell time. This incredibly advanced civilization used this construction to pinpoint any specific day within the year with an accuracy of 2 to 3 days, allowing them time for their planting and harvesting seasons along with their religious festivals. In the 19th century, conventional archaeologists who discovered the towers said they were used to monitor the moon and left it at that. Chanquillo remained a mystery to the archaeologists until the 2007 discovery made by British archaeoastronomer Clive Ruggles and Peruvian archaeologist Ivan Gezi, who dared to further question the reasons for this building. The enormous tower was thought to have been a hilltop fortification before it was discovered by the British archaeoastronomer Clive Ruggles and the Peruvian archaeologist Ivan Gezi. This claim was quickly debunked as soon as it arose. Due to the lack of a source of water within the walls and a large number of entrances, it did not seem like a well-protected and practical site for that purpose. Further observations made by Ivan Gezi and Clive Ruggles suggest that the placement of the 13 towers follows the arc of the shifting sun positions as it sets and rises over the course of 6 months between solstices. For instance, the sunrise appears to the right of the rightmost tower on the summer solstice. In contrast, the sunrise appears to the left of the leftmost tower during the winter solstice. The row of stairs found inside these towers strongly supports the suspicion that they were most likely once used for ritual purposes. A survey of the site shows that many walls have partially collapsed already, but enough has survived to calculate the sizes of each tower. They are vulnerable to damage from unauthorized access, storms, and sporadic quakes. A dedicated hallway in the West Observatory directed traffic to a doorless area that faced the towers. The spread of the towers throughout the horizon, as seen from this vantage point, roughly resembles the range of variation in the sun's rising locations throughout the year. This building is in generally good shape. It is almost completely covered in sand. Even though every wall has lost its upper portion, the excavations show that the wall plaster has been remarkably preserved, holding onto its original ink. The debris also rests at a stable angle. Likewise, a small structure that is east of the towers has been thought to be an observatory point. Its location regarding the towers is nearly identical to that of the west observing point because they are both on the same east-west line, share a comparable altitude, and are spaced equally apart from the towers. The dispersion of the towers produces a full horizon when viewed from inside the structure, and it also roughly resembles the yearly range of movement of the sun's setting locations. However, only the form of the rectangular room is still visible, presumably as a result of stone theft or later projects in the area. The third sector of the site features the plaza, which, based on the evidence found, received large groups of peasants on special occasions. Most people did not have access to the most important ceremonial sites, such as the astronomical observations and the Temple of the Pillars inside the Fortaleza. Now comes the puzzling question: who built this highly advanced site? With little to no information recorded about the builders, this has been a point of confusion for the archaeoastronomers. The earliest known record of the Chanquillo site was written in the second half of the 19th century, when some of the famous explorers and naturalists of the time published some drawings of the site. Recent archaeological excavations believe the site to have been built by the Kazma Sechin culture, and this is because barely anything is known about the builders of this site, apart from the fact that they lived in the coastal desert between Peru's Kazma River and Sechin River. Evidence found at the site suggests that they had an in-depth knowledge of astronomy, construction, and irrigation systems. A supposition was made that the sun worship existed long before the well-known sun cult of the Inca Empire. It is well known that the Inca civilization were sun worshippers, and these astronomical practices were tightly linked to the Inca king, who thought of himself as a descendant of the sun, so it is no wonder that this site was almost believed to have been related to them. The builders of Chanquillo remain unclear to this day, as they have not been able to attribute it to any known ancient civilization. It was in use for a relatively short period between 250 and 200 BC, during the late phase of the early horizon of Peruvian history, after which it was destroyed and abandoned. What is known for sure is that the Chanquillo complex, despite their similarities in religion and worship of the sun with the Inca civilization, had existed in the area for almost 2 millennia before the arrival of the Incas. It has been determined that the observation that was built undoubtedly had something to do with the creators honoring their mystical connection to the sun. As stated by Gezi, if you were just measuring seasons, there would be no need to make such great structures. All of this, therefore, speaks to a political and ideological statement regarding the link between a leader and the sun. The numerous dangers that the archaeological site faces from some natural resources were brought to light. Nevertheless, WMF has provided the site a lot of support, and the project team has worked hard to excavate, research, and record the site's findings. WMF provided essential assistance in 2016 in maintaining 5 towers and implementing the required safety precautions. Additionally, in 2021, work to preserve one of the 9 gates of the fortified temple began. These programs aided the UNESCO nomination, which was subsequently strengthened even more with the development of the site management plan. We hope that additional excavations are carried out and documented to preserve this monument because of how compelling the site is. From the extraordinary knowledge needed to have built these towers to the builders of the Chanquillo, who were probably much more advanced than we realized when they built what is said to be an astronomical observatory. How do you feel about the Chanquillo? Do you think it may have been from the 4th century, given that the findings have not been confirmed? Do you think this culture predates the Incas based on the discoveries of the archaeologists? What do you believe? Post your comments in the section below.